So I just wanted to welcome Paula back to our center. She taught for us a couple of months ago. Those wonderful teachings are on our YouTube page if you'd like to check those out. It was a weekend retreat on the first Discovering Buddhism module. And very lucky to have her back today. She has a lot of extensive retreat experience and teaching experience, so she's able to present from a experiential place, which is really rare and very precious. And so we are really grateful that she was able to be here today. So thank you so much for accepting our invitation, and we hope that we'll be able to continue, over the months and years to work together. So thank you so much.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to. We have Bodhisattva vows, right? That we're supposed to help as much as possible. So here I am. Maybe just, it's such a small group of us. Maybe you could just introduce yourselves to me a little bit and, a little bit about maybe where you live or just something about yourself, just to sort of, so we can all kind of join the group as if we were actually in a room together. We have to pretend that we are, even though we're on completely different parts of the world. Maybe you're all in the United States, but yeah, so maybe, I don't know, Dundrup, if you want to share, you could share. Why not start with you?
Sure. My name is Dundrup, and I work for the center here in Santa Fe, Thapchen Norbu Ling. I moved here in October. Right now, I'm considered the spiritual program coordinator and the center manager because we need to distinguish and get some more people. So yeah, we're we're opening in a bit, so we're working on the physical space and reopening, and so that's kind of what I do. And yeah, I met the teachings, met the Dharma back in 2007, 2008. Moved to Virginia in 2010 and met my root guru, Gyume Khenpo Rinpoche, in 2010. Took ordination in 2013, novice ordination. So, yeah.
Cool. Good for you. Yeah. Okay, well, Lou, how about you next?
Okay. Let's see. I've been a Buddhist since July 4th. Root Guru is Venerable Rubina, and I took vows with her in a Zoom call from the Australia Center on July 4th. And the end of this month, I'll be taking vows from her in person because she's going to be in a center that's like about 25 miles from me for about a week and a half. So I'm excited about that. I'm 75. I don't know. And that's about it.
Okay, are you retired?
Oh yeah, I've been retired since I've been retired for about 13 years. Yeah.
And did you move down to Florida after you retired, or were you already in Florida?
Actually, I moved down to Florida in 1978. I was living in Massachusetts, and we had a 62-inch snowstorm in April, and my wife and I decided time to move. So
Right. So is that the Thupten Norbu Ling Center where we're being?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They're really nice people. I've been there a few times. Yeah, that's great. Cool. And so then we have Linda. Where are you, Linda?
See, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Can you hear me now? Okay. I'm not so good on the computer. Let's see. I've been involved with Thupten Norbu Ling. How long now? I don't know, 20 years, I guess, here in Santa Fe. Lived here 40 years. Be 80 in a month. And I'm I can't wait till our center opens. It's so hard doing it all on Zoom.
Yeah, it is. I feel
I
the
don't know.
same way.
Maybe I can put this out because I don't know any other way. I've been helping Sister Max, and
Oh, cool.
we're both very low income, so I helped her to get back on food stamps.
And you're about the same age too, I think, too.
Oh no, she's almost 89.
Is she that old now? Wow.
She'll be 89 in October. That's a big
Amazing.
difference.
Yeah, there is a big difference. There is a big difference.
But she needs Wi-Fi help, and that's not me. So I don't know. I'll put this out. And I do have Mary's number. I'll try to call her.
I'll let people know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, without Mummy Max, we wouldn't have an FPMT. So she's a really, really instrumental person. And thank you so much for helping her, because she is an amazing lady.
It's amazing to be with her.
Yeah. And then who's next? Let's Barbara, where are you?
Hi, I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona, also
Okay.
known as like the Florida of the West. So, I'm originally from the East Coast, and I've been here for about 3 years. And I am exploring in kind of a unstructured way all things about Buddhism, and I'm doing a lot of these Zoom things with the center. And I'm so grateful that there is the Zoom option because I think I'm like maybe 7 or 8 hours from the center. So this is just a wonderful experience, and I'm enjoying all of the different offerings. And I especially like this Tuesday Be Your Own Therapist because I have a strong interest and background in psychology. So I'm really enjoying it, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say about things. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Great. And then we have one more, Vanessa. Are you still there? No, you
Yeah, I'm just moving locations.
Yeah.
Are we just introductions?
Yeah, we're just saying hi, just because it just helps me and helps us to feel like we're connected and sitting in the same room. So
Okay, I'm Vanessa. I'm from Orange County, California, and I've been meditating or getting into Buddhism probably several years now. I'm not sure, maybe like 7 years. And yeah, I was involved with FPMT and helping their events here on the West Coast, and still trying to coordinate some things during this pandemic. So
yeah.
Sure.
Do you go to Tipton Dargy Ling, the place in Long Beach? Do you ever go
yeah,
there?
I do. Yeah.
They're great. They're really good people there too.
Mhm. Yeah, I live pretty close. So yeah, I go there as much as I can.
Oh, cool. That's really great. Okay, well, I just found out about this morning. I mean, I think Donald asked me a few weeks ago, but I just sort of spaced it out. So let's just start by just kind of tuning into I'm sure you all know to do this, but let's just start by just simply becoming present with each other and present with our bodies and with the space. So it just, I guess the easiest way is to start paying attention to our breathing, and maybe sit with a relatively straight back in a comfortable chair or however is comfortable for you. And we'll just tune in with because we may have been coming from something busy. Just kind of get into that grounded space. And just noticing our bodies. Maybe doing a scan, from our head, and neck and shoulders and arms, and noticing if there's like tension in our shoulders or tension in our bellies. Feeling our thighs and calves and knees and ankles, feet, toes, bottoms of our feet. Just breathing gently. And just letting the thoughts come and go. We don't necessarily have to pay attention to them, but it is a good idea to just kind of focus on our hearts and how do we feel? What's alive in me right now in this moment? And not doing anything but resting and letting all those things be there without pushing away or recognizing our feelings and letting it be okay, whatever they are. Connecting with each other. And feeling our interconnectedness with all the sentient beings, all the people and animals and spirits and kind of in our mind, without really having to construct anything, but just putting forth the idea that we're all okay just as we are, and just allowing for us to let everyone just be without judging or labeling, just acknowledging the presence of our interconnectedness and bringing to mind all the people in our lives without having to think about it, just making that intention. And then bringing into the space the enlightened beings, however you connect with your divine inner wisdom through outer recognition of a Buddha or Mother Tara or Chinrezi or His Holiness the Dalai Lama, or just to connect with the feeling of blessing. That as we sit and let everything and everyone just be, but as we breathe, we're just going to breathe in, noticing, I'll use the example of Buddha. Just bringing the Buddha into the room with me and imagining maybe it is hard as His Holiness or Lama Zopa or Mother Tara. And just imagine that as we're breathing in that blessing in the form of gratitude and joy. And as we breathe out, we're just sharing that with all these beings in this invisible web of interconnectedness that is there, not having to do anything, just let it happen. And then let's just take a moment to um, see if we can feel some gratitude. Just think of a few things that we might be grateful for today. The sun shining, people in our lives that improve our lives, such as our teachers and Buddhas. Anyway, you can do it yourself. And as we continue to breathe, we can just breathe in this blessing of the Buddha and kind of ignite that gratitude. And as we breathe out, we just sit in this gratitude feeling and just with the sort of knowing nature that it's being shared. We don't have to do anything, just kind of let it be there like that. Like with our exhale, we're just letting that gratitude, that sense of, how it feels a little bit joyful, a little bit happy, a little bit content. And the good things in life. To perk up our mood. And then we just motivate that the next, 40 minutes or so that we spend together, that it can be healing and promoting wisdom and compassion in our hearts and helping us feel connected and open and contented and loving and feeling strong enough to just be alive in the world today. And ultimately, of course, to continue to grow in our experience of enlightenment and become more and more enlightened beings and able to share that in the most skillful way when the opportunity presents itself to us. So I think that's a good enough start for our little time together. Yeah. So, would anybody like to share whatever comes to mind, what you're grateful for today? Yeah.
I'm grateful I woke up this morning. I truly am. That's something I
Yes,
do every morning, is feel grateful for waking up.
that's great, because as we get older, it's less and less likely that we might, isn't it? Yeah. Was this? Did you was this okay to think about gratitude, or was it like irritating to you? Anybody? Come on, there's only 6 of us. We can not be shy.
It was okay for me because it's something that I don't do enough of. And so every time someone reminds me to be grateful for something, it's nice, because if I'm on my own, I just forget all the time.
Yeah, it's a good practice. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I forget to be grateful or have gratitude for what I have. Things like people take for granted, for like, good health or a roof over my head, or not being in huge debt or owing a lot of money. So, and lately I've been thinking about issues of resentment, and I try to counter that or use the antidote of being grateful for what I have and not what I don't have.
Yeah, it helps a lot with that, particularly with resentment, and also just if it's to a particular person, I always find it's helpful to think that, well, that person, I mean, I know it sounds really elementary, but it actually really helps. And I think, well, that person really was looking for their own happiness. They just go about it in a way that's really stupid because they're just being selfish. But so many people are just, they just aren't very skillful, and they do things just trying to be happy. And if they knew better, they probably wouldn't. But I mean, I think for me, I'm just so kind of overwhelmed these days with what's going on in the world. So that's why I wanted to, think about being grateful, because, I was just beginning to work in the garden for this year, and I just feel so much sadness. So I just thought maybe we could share that. I mean, it's kind of, before you get into sadness, it's good to start out with gratitude. So, Barb, have you got anything you'd like to share about what's grateful for you?
Sure. I think I have a tendency to, when there's a problem, when the problem is solved, I have a moment of gratitude, like, oh, thank goodness. But once it's gone, it's like, it's not on my radar anymore. And I have some chronic pain. And on the days when there's a moment when I don't have pain, I have no gratitude for that. And it's kind of,
Oh,
it's not there, so I'm not feeling it. So there's no experience of it whatsoever. And I also think about, I have a cat laying here next to me, and about a month ago, she lost her soulmate. We had to euthanize him, and it was like her husband. You know, they were constantly together. And as we were just meditating now, I was thinking about how wonderful she is, that she's done so well. She's made her own little routine, and she's become very independent, and I'm grateful for that. And I kind of overlooked that because there's no problem, you know. So what I think that I have to really focus on that is when there isn't a problem, what am I grateful for? Because I feel like my gratitude kind of surrounds the problem. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
What about you, Linda? Do you have some gratefulness you want to share, or are you still there even? Sure she's even there. Yeah. Well, that's okay. Yeah, in
Yeah, I'm here.
okay, cool.
I'm just have so much trouble with technology.
Yeah.
I used to be able to rebuild car engines, but this is another lifetime. Well, I'm grateful for the time that I've been able to have with Max, and grateful to the wonderful people out in Income Support that helped me yesterday to get her on the road to food stamps and me on the road to something else. And for the beautiful weather, we could have some more moisture here in New Mexico,
Yeah.
to put it mildly. And
Is it warming up? Is it springtime there now, or is it
it
still
is, and we've had horrible winds, and so there's a lot of wildfires around the state.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
And we're getting back into the most extreme, extraordinary drought category there is.
The whole Western United States is really in trouble, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm grateful that we have Zoom.
Yeah.
And for this class. And I'm sorry, I don't know how to get my face back on, but
That's all right. You just have to go where it says video up at the top or bottom. You'll see a thing that says stop video or start video, and it has a red line across it. You just
I
click.
think, well, I got that. Yeah. Oh, I got it.
Yeah, there you are. Oh yeah, it's nice to see you again.
I can do it and then I forget what I did.
Yeah, I know. It's okay. We're all kind of, we're all there. So, but in Buddhism, we talk about rejoicing, but it's not quite the same as gratitude. And I really feel like there's something missing. That I mean, you can even like pick up a notebook and just write down, I'm grateful for, and then just make this list of stuff. And it's like Lou, waking up in the morning, being grateful. And I just find if I wake up in the morning, when I remember to kind of go through in my mind the gratitude situation, it balances out so much of what you're talking about, Vanessa, with the resentment thing, And a few years ago, I was having a really difficult time with people in my life and situation in my life. And I was quite upset about it. And I couldn't believe that, after all these years of Buddhism, why would I be so upset? You're not supposed to be upset. And then I just started, when I was meditating, I would just start thinking about, well, all the things about those people that were good things. And eventually it balanced out, and I didn't feel, and especially if I added that concept of karma, you think, well, when bad things happen to us, quote, bad things, and we start thinking about karma, I mean, to go from like the intellectual idea, oh yeah, I created the cause for this. It doesn't really touch it, it doesn't really touch the fact that you're so pissed off or so hurt or so sad. And I think that we think that, at least I used to think that it's going to happen right away, But my experience is that if I'm working with a really tough situation, I have to do that analytical meditation over and over and over again. And then couple that with gratitude. And then eventually that feeling of victim or loss will subside, but it sort of takes everything. It takes feeling compassion, meditating on compassion for that person or that situation, meditating on compassion for myself, looking at the karma of the situation. Of course, we can always go back to the thing of, oh yeah, well now I've purified something. And I remember one time when I was with Lama Zopa, might have been the last time I saw Lama Zopa. I can't remember this. Oh no, I saw Lama Zopa in 2017. I haven't seen him since then. But I was in New York City. Maybe you were there, Dundra. Maybe you came up for that. He was in New York in 2015. And that was when I was right in the middle of all that, and he said to me, he said, not to me, it was the whole group. He was teaching on patience. And he said, when somebody does something really horrible to you, he said, your karma's finished, but their bad karma is just starting. And somehow I could just feel my whole energy going, that resentment that I've been holding, just completely. And part of it's the power of the guru, just his words are so powerful. But I could just feel, I just felt that whole thing that I've been working on for a year just kind of faded away when I got it, that, my karma's finished. Theirs is just starting, they're going to suffer in the future for what they've done. And, I don't know, it helped me a lot. And anyway, does anyone want to share something else? I mean, this is supposed to be a group thing, not just me talking,
Yeah, that's very powerful, how to contemplate that when someone does something to you that you perceive as wrong. It's like your karma being completed and they're starting. But like for me, it's the past year and a half. My mom passed away a year and a half ago, and I just keep on having the resentment of my stepdad pretty much stealing her money away from her kids. So, I wanted to just move on from it, and I kind of agreed to it and not bother doing anything legally, just to move on. And I just been using that as my kind of my Dharma lesson. And there's times where I feel no resentment, and it's like, it's just money. That's it. It's nothing more than that. And then there's days where I'm having a bad day, and then I start thinking back, but it's just been since my mom's passing, like that's been my Dharma lesson, like constantly, almost like on a daily basis.
No, I can relate. And probably it's probably connected to your grief. Like the grief is coupled with the resentment. And so until you can resolve the grief, maybe that's a terrible thing to do. I have some friends in Mexico whose stepmother actually killed their father and stole all the money. And was never, they are sure she killed him because it was one of those things where there was too much carbon monoxide in the house and he died of gas poisoning. And she's like almost positive that she turned on the stove and just closed all the doors and left the house, and then took all the money. So, and I think one of the things that's so hard about Buddhism, but at the same time so helpful, is that if we really understand karma, is somebody else coming? And if we could really get karma, there's no victims and there's no perpetrators. And that's such a hard thing to accept. But I was really fortunate to live with Lama Zopa for a year in 1999, 98, 99, a little more than a year. And one thing I noticed about him, the biggest teaching I got was because not everything goes right for him either, stuff goes wrong and he loses money too, and people steal, and people, everybody, just because you're a highly realized being doesn't mean bad things aren't going to happen, especially if you're involved with a bunch of bozos like us. So, but I noticed when things didn't go right, because it was like trying to get the money for the Maitreya statue, and there were these people squatting on the land, they couldn't get rid of the people on the land, all stuff. But Rinpoche, I never saw him get that kind of grasping mind of resentment or anything. He would just go, no karma. Every time you just go, no karma. And I remember when my dad, a long time ago, my dad left my mom for a younger woman, and he was just like, oh, karma, you know? And he told me another time that karma is like the hardest thing for people to really understand. So I think that's why I like to introduce the concept of gratitude, because it seems to help when we can't quite get the idea that, I didn't deserve this, because in this life you didn't. Of course you didn't deserve anything like that, but who knows what's happened in other lifetimes. And I think the thing to do is we just have to have so much compassion for this poor guy who's got so much suffering that he's going to rip you off, And I think it's in my life, and people have done that to me. In my mind, I just try to generate generosity and think, well, I'm going to give it to him. But it's not easy. It's really not easy. So it takes time. It takes time. It could take 2 or 3 years, but don't give up, because if you keep doing the analytical meditations on gratitude and compassion and equanimity, eventually, also with time, you feel, I'm even at the point now where there's people in my life who've done bad, wrong things to me, but I feel completely okay about it now. Like completely okay about it now. But in some cases, it took 10 years, So I don't know. Does anyone else want to share about that? It looks like Linda's about to say something. No, she's just come back. Okay. Because I hope you don't mind, but I am just kind of like completely grieving, I guess, or upset and angry and about the situation in Ukraine, and also the situation in the United States. I don't live there anymore, but when I, hear about what's happening and in terms of I don't know, we're not supposed to talk about politics, but just the voting rights things, and just, I don't know, the whole world, it just seems to me in the last 5-10 years is just like taking a huge dive into negative ripenings, and it's like, okay, how do we deal with that, and if you want to, we could do another little meditation. Would you like to do another little meditation or not? Would you rather talk? Just raise your hand if you want to do another meditation, and don't raise your hand if you'd rather just chat, because it doesn't matter to me. Oh, it looks like we're talking. Okay. All right. Well, then I don't want to be the only one talking, but I think it's helpful, especially if we don't, chat a lot. It's just, okay, we talk about what we're grateful for, but we also, it's good to share, what is making me upset. Like Vanessa just shared the situation with her parents, and I just shared the situation with how I'm feeling about the world. Does anybody else want to say, this is really bugging me? Because as we all know, sometimes it's helpful to let it out, and feel our grief and share our grief in a way where we get heard, and I know that Barbara's missing her kitty cat, the one that died. But I don't know, does anyone else want to say anything or share? Yeah.
I've been an activist almost my whole life, and anti-war activist, LGBTQ plus, anti-racism work, animal rights work, all these things that I spent my life working on, and having the feeling that things were changing, and then having one man become president and sort of pulling back the curtain and allowing people to say what they really believe, and realizing that nothing had really changed. In fact, it was just all covered up. And it's just distressing.
It's devastating in some ways.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, what are we going to do about that? I mean, I guess there's two questions. What can we do personally to deal with the way we feel about it? But then in the world, what can we do about it? You know, and do we want to do anything about it even? You know, yeah.
Well, personally, I just keep on plugging, you know, because that's the only thing I know how to do. So I work with teens and things like that. Zoom is a great help, you know. And as for what about the world, it's all I can do is take care of myself and the area I'm involved in. And if enough of us do that, the world will take care of itself.
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah, I guess what the way I feel about it is the worst thing we can do is fall into despair, which is why I opened up with gratitude, because gratitude is a way of, if we can just keep, I think for me personally, to just try, or not try, but be positive, you know, be positive, be present. Because I believe that, as I started out in the meditation, we are all interconnected. And if and the thing I love, one of the things I love about Buddhism is because we're all interconnected, that if I can't find a reason personally to be positive, then if I think about everybody else in the world and that my state of mind affects everyone else's state of mind, then for other people, I can figure out how to generate a positive state of mind through taking refuge, through doing Tonglen, or, you know, Buddhism has so many wonderful meditations and techniques, how we can work with our mind every day. You know, I mean, I have to every day still. I mean, you know, I've been doing this for almost 50 years, but it's like every day I still have to sit down and clean my mind. You know, it's like cleaning my teeth or taking a shower. I mean, I also have to work with my body, and sometimes it gets to be, oh man, it just takes so much to maintain my equilibrium in this world, you know, and it's just, and I mean, it's just like the Four Noble Truths are just staring me right in the face all the time, you know, like, you know, here it is, the truth of suffering, you know. But I think the good news is that there is a cessation, and hopefully we will use these degenerate times to not just be more full of self-pity, as Lama, yes, you would say, but to find that kind of invincible, you know, superwoman place where who gives a, but you know, what's going on in the world, I can be powerful and strong in my own little world, and figure out what it takes to do that, because we're all different, you know, what it does it take, you know. And I mean, for me personally, I love doing Tonglen meditation and just feeling like, you know, sort of like we would do what we did at the beginning, but then, you know, just sort of like, and not exactly the way they teach it in the Gelugpa, but just the sense of, as I'm breathing in, I'm filtering all the negativity through my good heart. And then as I breathe out, then I share that with the world, so that it's, you don't have this idea of, oh, I'm destroying my self-cherishing, you know, like there's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me, because I have Buddha nature in my heart. And if I can allow all that junk, you know, first my own and everybody else's, to sort of like, you know, like you have a water filter, you know, we all have these water filters to filter our water, you know, it's like, well, I also have a heart filter where I can, once I generate the gratitude, the refuge, you know, then I can just filter all this negativity, because I just, people are just overwhelmed these days, you know, with the heaviness of everything, you know. So, I mean, could I ask you to share, you know, ways that you manage to keep yourself kind of on a positive track every day. I mean, maybe sometimes we can help each other with that, you know, if you don't mind. Yeah, Linda.
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
No. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we can.
I
we
never.
Yeah.
That's the story of my life. No. I live in a 20 apartment complex that's been for sale since July. And it's one of the places in Santa Fe that has a reasonable rent.
Yeah.
Anyway, I try to, so people get mad at the landlords, and now we have a management company. And I really just try to see that people are doing their jobs. And, you know, I mean, I basically was a servant most of my life. I cleaned houses and did landscaping for people. And I just see, you know, these bureaucrats, they're bureaucrats. They're still people. And if you're nice to them, it makes a difference. And then I have to try to, when one of my neighbors is like spewing, I try to think of positive things that they might think about. You know, we're all scared that we won't have a home, and rents in Santa Fe are outrageous. But this doesn't help to get mad at the management company or even the landlords, you know.
Yeah. I think rents are outrageous everywhere.
Well, all the Californians have moved here. So the median house price doubled since the pandemic started.
Yeah. Really? Really?
In Santa Fe, it went from
Wow.
300,000 to 600,000 median.
In
house.
2 years?
Yeah. Maybe it was 300 and something,
But still.
the IT people that can work from home.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I just try to see other people as that. Well, what I thought of first was the first thing I learned in Buddhism is everybody was my mother in another life.
That's right.
I had a really hard time with some people.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, not that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had a hard time with my mother, so it takes a while to get over that, even, you know.
Well, yeah. And one of my teachers came from Ireland, and she said it was amazing to her how much Americans blamed their mothers for everything. And my wife has a son who's never speaking to her again.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, I think for me, the greatest thing about Buddhism, besides one of those, another one is just the fact that there's no point in blaming anybody for anything. I mean, you know, I'll share this with you. Did you ever, any of you guys ever hear Reba Rinpoche? He died in, well, you must, because from Washington, D.C., he was Lauren's root guru, and he's the one who brought Mackenzie Rinpoche there. Well, you know who he is. Well, he was one of my main teachers too, and in fact, the last time I saw him, I was with Lauren. He was in Virginia, and it was at Lauren's house, and we did Vajrayogini initiation with him. But he said one time, Atlanta Medicine Buddha, and it was just a little sound bite in the midst of, you know, a whole long teaching. But he said, anytime we blame anybody else for what's happened to us, we've lost our refuge. It's really profound, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because it means that we don't believe in karma, you know. So I never forgot that. And it was interesting because when I came out of the teaching, nobody else really heard it. You know, they didn't get it. You know, they didn't catch it. It was just a little thing, you know. But I went, whoa, you know. So when I start to blame somebody else for what's going on with me, I remember that. You know, it's like, no, I don't want to lose my refuge. You know. So good point about other people. But it sure is hard in these times when, what is it we just heard, you know, like the richest 700 people in the United States have gone from like having $2 trillion to $10 trillion in the last 2 years. and they only, I heard this today on NPR, and they only get taxed for 3% of their income. Well, anyway, it's not a fair world, is it? It's just not a fair world.
And we live in the most privileged part of it.
Yeah, we do. We live in the most privileged part of it. If you think about people in other parts of the world, Egypt, Syria, Mexico,
Anywhere, Yemen.
anywhere. And I think that they're all facing the same issues we are in terms of rents and homes. It's just that it's just a different scale. Instead of it going from 300,000 to 600,000, maybe it went from 70,000 to 100 to 200,000 or something. But it's happening everywhere. And I don't know. I sometimes I wonder how long is it going to be before there's a revolution again? I don't know. Yeah. Anybody else want to share? Yeah.
I lost my mother 6 years ago. It'll be 6 years next month. And when I had taken care of her for a couple of years in my home because she didn't want to be in any kind of a nursing home. So I.
Is that yours?
Yeah, it's a big fire truck going by. Sorry. So after she died, I thought that would bring my brother and sister closer to me, that we would get along much better. But they accused me of horrible things and they stopped talking to me. And so I was left, I felt completely abandoned. I was in a serious car accident where somebody had T-boned me and none of them had any interest in me. And all of a sudden, against my desire, I was unplugged from the family dynamic. And that kind of solitude was actually good for me. That kind of like isolation, in a sense, was good for me because it opened me up to so much. And on a whim, I took an ancestry DNA test and learned that I'm not the same as them. So I learned that I wasn't who I thought I was. And I learned that they weren't who they thought they were, who I thought they were. And it's this, I came face to face with this concept of like everything in the world is an illusion. And I had to work through that. And, I'm still working through it. But that experience of, being okay and knowing that I have to go through a surgery on my own and survive, and still feel connection to the world, but understand that I don't have to buy into the illusion that everybody has of me or of what's going on. And meditation has kind of been analogous to that in a sense, where when I meditate, I'm not unplugging from the world, but I'm unplugging from the dynamic, like of,
Yeah.
It's like a homecoming. Like, who am
Exactly.
I? What is going on inside of me? How is this feeling? And to know that I can survive that feeling, because I was highly anxious growing up as a child, and now I know I understand now why I was the Cinderella of the family and all of this. And it's just like this like revelation came to me. And sometimes I get little flashes of that insight in a way in my meditation. So it gives me hope that I'm a whole person, I'm a good person, and that I just have to keep reconnecting to myself rather than that illusion that's out there. And it's like a group hysteria where, I'm buying into it and believing, I'm not good enough if I don't use this particular cosmetic, or if I'm not thin enough, or if I don't have enough money, I don't have to buy into that. And so I have these moments where I get it. And then I have moments where I fall back into the kind of like the social pathology that we have. So that gives me hope, those little moments of truth. So that's all I can really add. But I think that when my friends have also had mothers who've died, and hearing Vanessa talk, it's like something about when your mother dies, it's like the veil is lifted. It's like the Wizard of Oz, the curtain is pulled back and you just see the whole world. People start revealing themselves in a whole new way. And I've had to do a lot of work on forgiving people because my mother took this secret to her grave. You know, if we were so close, we were like best friends, and she didn't tell me. And I know that she rationalized this and, you know, thought that she was doing the best thing and didn't trust that I could handle the truth. But yeah, I don't know what it is, but something about when my mother died, it's like the world changed for me. People became different.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much for sharing, because it's what you're talking about is refuge, isn't it? I mean, that's what is so special about Buddhism, is that once we discover that secret of how you can just sit and be with yourself and completely accept, you know, I mean, I love Pema Chodron's teachings, you know, because it's so much of it is about, well, it's from the Kagyu tradition of just not judging, just being, connecting with your Buddha nature, using refuge to do that. And I mean, I don't think I could survive without that, you know, without that ability. And just like you said, it's not all, you're not always able to contact it and get into it, but you know it's there. Thank you very much for sharing that, because I think, yeah, it's real for all of us. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Dundrup?
That's great. Been a great class. Man. Very helpful.
Okay, we won't force you to share anything. Yeah. Well. Oh, it's over. It's 5:59. Well, let's just well, thank you very much, Barbara. That was really all of you for sharing. And let's just take a moment to go back to that space and you know, remember Rinpoche's teaching on anytime we blame ourselves, we lose our refuge. And just remember what that refuge is, what that Buddha nature is. And just dedicate that we can all continue to cultivate that coming home, that space where there's no more judgment, we're interconnected, where we feel love for all beings and for ourselves, and particularly those that have harmed us. And that by us continuing to cultivate that we can make the whole world a better place, and also to dedicate that in all our lives, that we can meet with the teachings of the Buddha and have supportive friends like we have here now, and ways to continue to learn. And just in closing, I will say that someone told me recently that the Dalai Lama said that not to worry about the end of the life on this planet, because everyone who has faith in him will meet in another life in another planet and continue with our Dharma practice. So I thought that was kind of a bit of optimism. Yeah, and yeah. So, and another thing, Reba Rinpoche told me one time, that same time when I was with Lauren, you know, I went to him and I said, I feel like I should stop doing all this meditation and go to Washington, D.C. and become a political activist. You know, this was like 2005. So I was so worried about climate change. He just looked at me and he said, dear, there are other planets. It's much more important for you to get enlightened. So we carry on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, nice to meet you all. And I guess I'm going to do this again next week. It's easy enough. So, yeah, and thank you so much for taking care of Max. I wish FPMT would just start giving her some money. They should, you know. She gave so much money to FPMT. I don't know how. Maybe I'll write Roger Kunsong and tell him. Maybe.
You know, it's not the money. She, especially since Rowena is gone, she needs friends.
Yeah.
She has friends where she lives, but they're not Buddhist. But yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a privilege to be with her.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Special. Okay, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you very much.